Well, reaction this morning following the verdict in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. He was acquitted of all charges against him in the deadly shooting during protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin last year. And joining us this morning to talk more about it is famed criminal defense attorney Mark O'Mara. Always great to see you, Mark. How are you?
Great, Amy. Good to see you, and happy holiday week.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, you going into the Kyle Rittenhouse case, because there were a lot of similarities to the George Zimmerman trial in which you defended George Zimmerman. Did you watch this trial with maybe a little more interest than most?
Oh, absolutely. And a couple of reasons. One, because of the media coverage and because of the social issues that were at play, the cultural issues. Those are different than the Zimmerman case, but still, people looked at the Rittenhouse case and attached to it maybe a lot more than was actually there as far as Second Amendment rights versus the racial insensitivity issues. So, yeah, I was very intrigued. Plus, you know, it's a televised trial, and I like looking at them and trying to get some pointers if I can.
Well, in your case, too, you sort of lived this similar life going through the George Zimmerman trial, a long trial. All eyes of the nation were watching, waiting for that verdict. Were you shocked when the jury came back with the not guilty verdict?
No, I really wasn't. And I had said early on that it was going to be a very difficult conviction. And the reason why is because even though maybe this 17-year-old shouldn't have been there, maybe he shouldn't have had an AR-15, whatever that might be, at the moment of the shooting, if you really look at it closely, was he acting in what we under the law call reasonable reaction to a perceived threat of imminent great bodily injury? And if you really look at it, the answer would be yes for those shootings. Now, was it horrific? Was it unnecessary? Should the gun not have been there? Yes. But it was very interesting, I thought, what the defense said when they argued, look, he's not an active shooter. As a matter of fact, there were a number of times he didn't shoot. And I think that played with the jury. Although I tell you, 4 days of deliberations, very difficult to live through that.
Well, Mark, the jury had things that they didn't have in your particular case. In the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case, you didn't have video, right? You only had really what George told police.
Absolutely true. And now video is normal. Now, if you don't have video in a case, I think it's much more difficult for the prosecution and for any proponent of a situation. I mean, look at how much video was in there. And even since the Zimmerman case forward, how many other cases have shown video as a primary piece of evidence. And I know going forward, not only should we have a jurist requested more, but video is going to play a huge part in any conviction in the future because there is so much of it.
There's been so much political discourse around this case, this verdict. We even had the president calling Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist before the trial. And now there's been a lot of talk post-trial about, was there perhaps too much focus by the media in sort of the circumstances around this, and a lot of people commenting without having watched the trial?
Well, I always suggest that the best thing that we can do as observers is be quiet and don't ever say anything that you're going to have to respond to. But having said that, you know, the media follows the interest. People now say they cause the interest, but I still say the media follows the interest. So this case got a lot of attention, then the media covers it, then of course you're going to have more attention. I do think the traditional media has been very responsible, very frustrated by that MSNBC absolute fiasco. But aside from that, the traditional media is fairly responsive and responsible. The problem that I see is now every journalist or any person with a cell phone is a journalist, and that could really lead to the degrading of not only coverage, but in people's belief and willingness to listen to those who are covering it.
Well, it has been fascinating to watch, that is for sure. And of course, we always appreciate your insight. Defense attorney Mark O'Mara, thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Great to be here.
Take care.
Great to hear his insight, for sure.